You're going to hook this up and you're going to connect your brain to the internet, and suddenly you're going to get hacked by everybody and you're going to become part of a botnet.
This is the Creator Podcast with Jeff and Gus, and I am Gus.
And I'm Jeff.
Bing bong.
Statement. And that is very special guest and friend, Doug Kavendek.
Doug Kavendek, yep. You pronounced it correctly. This is good.
That's
a good start.
And I apologize in another dimension if I mispronounced it. I'm sure in another dimension I did.
Oh,
no, I'm not saying this one, but another one. I might have. Doug is been working with me and Jeff actually for a bunch of years on our very special video game, FrightShow Fighter. It's been on Steam for a little while, and now we're working on iOS version. And before that, Doug made a game called Bum Fight. But Doug...
Oh, no.
Well, I just figured I mean, you got to give a backstory to something.
Yeah. It's not the most sensitive of subject matters. I was 19? Whatever. Anyway, we'll keep going.
You got to start somewhere.
It was a different time.
It was just a video game, you know? Yeah.
Video game that was never fully finished, and one day maybe I'll go back to it. Who knows? I mean,
right.
All the projects I have right now, just too many.
Yeah. Well, FrightShow Fighter is out. It's awesome. And one thing that people aren't going to realize is that you created your own. I'm messing up for words here. What is it called? A game
engine.
Game engine.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much the entire thing, except for a few helper libraries. So everything from just the rendering pipeline, loading stuff, configuration settings, just managing all that nonsense that goes on behind the scenes.
And just so we're clear, Doug is the programmer, so he deals with ones and zeros. So that's just to make sure that goes out there.
Yeah, which is a very special talent that's in its own. It's like its own species of humans, I think, because it's rare and it's a talent. It's a fine talent. It's an art. It's just it's really unique, and I think I always say I think you're a genius, and I think so many people can design games on engines that exist, like the two main, but the fact that you've been able to create your own, I think as this becomes the past, people are going to look back at this and go, Gus was right. Doug is genius. So
yeah, it definitely made it the harder route, and definitely takes longer. But it's just kind of the way I work is that I like to know how things work and try to do it myself at least once, and I like to take things apart to figure out why they work and why they don't work. It was always kind of fascinating once I got into OpenGL and just seeing how you could use parts of that to make something much bigger.
Well, also, it seems like it lends itself better to customization. Like if we just went with an off-the-shelf Unreal Engine or something, and then Gus and I come up with crazy ideas about, characters splitting in half in the middle of a game and stuff like that. I think a lot of that stuff might not have been possible.
Well, I think maybe with Unreal probably because it's pretty powerful. But I mean, it would kind of constrain it. Like right now, if I wanted to, I could really hack things in some crazy ways because we have the entire source code right here. But it also is kind of it also feels like its own thing as a result. Because one thing I noticed a lot is when people make Unity games, which is something that it's great to be able to get something out there, but a lot of them kind of end up feeling like a Unity game, like what it was in, kind of like the Adventure Game Studio. Every game out of that looked the same, and so on. So I mean, that's the advantage of doing it all yourself, I guess.
Yeah, it's a rare advantage. It sounds like it's insanely rare today. Yeah. Whenever we tell, we've gone to gaming conventions and stuff, and I think I feel like we're the only people that do it, which is fun though. I feel like it makes it extra special because the art style and all that, the look to it is unique in its own. Like it sticks out at a convention, but I like that layer is there too, and I think it'll eventually really pay off for us.
Yeah, that was definitely my favorite part of MagFest in too many games and whatever. When like you talk to people, you tell them, "Oh, it's my own engine." Some people are just like, "Oh, cool." Other people are like that they were part of doing these things and they know what it means, and they just look at me like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" And it's like, "Are you serious?" And it was like, I don't know, just for some people it definitely became more impressive because of that.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it before, and I don't it was just the idea that if you can impress your peers, then that's more rewarding than impressing any random Joe off the street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like I know our audience is kind of hard to define because like I've had like you have a little kid run in, like little kids can find enjoyment in almost anything, but it's still kind of nice when a little kid like you can't tear them away from the game. But at the same time, like we have older people like come in and play it and play it for like half an hour at the booth, and we'd like kick them away because other people are trying to get in. Yeah.
Did I say the title of the game? I don't know if I said
Yeah.
it yet.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's FrightShow Fighter.
No, almost. It's FrightShow Fighter, and funny story because we had to get that trademark and come up with something that we agreed. Fighter would have been horrible. Now that we look back on
Yeah, it's such an awkward name compared to yeah.
Yeah.
I love how we ended up on what we did.
Yeah. Well, now we know how to renew trademarks. Emmy just figured it out today, so that'll be good. That'll be good moving forward.
Well,
yeah, I worked really hard to get that trademark. I became a trademark lawyer.
Yeah, that document. He seriously thought you were about to like try to like, I don't even know. Just there's pages.
I had to fight the system. I was I studied for weeks on how to fight.
And it worked. I love that it worked. Like
yeah,
they're just like, okay, sure. You got it.
You throw enough documents at someone. I mean, ultimately, everybody making decisions is a human behind the scenes, and this goes up any kind of hierarchy you go up. Like you have your boss, and their boss has their boss, and their boss at the very top. Like they're all humans. Every single one of them is a human. So when a decision has to be made about whether, for instance, a trademark can go through or not. It's a human making that decision. There might be criteria and guidelines, but ultimately it's a human. So I think when there's that human element involved, it's not as straightforward as you're used to with ones and zeros, Doug K.
Straightforward. Oh. I wish things were more straightforward sometimes at work, but
and I just want to put a little asterisk in here. I'm so sorry. For any robots listening to this in the future, we are not trying to offend or anything like that. Like Jeff doesn't realize that robots will be making decisions soon, so I apologize.
But they will be imbued with the human spirit, so it's similar.
Yeah, the machine learning will be. Surely we won't make machine learning that will be against human interests.
Oh no!
Surely not.
Never. Never at all.
We won't create black box decision trees that we can't possibly understand that will just change the lives of millions of people.
Well, as soon as you just program self-preservation into anything, it will do whatever it takes to keep itself alive.
Yeah, it's like probably like 6 lines of code. Just add it. Just add it. It's easy.
Yeah. And then robots that can, charge themselves. We already have like Roombas and stuff. When they're low on battery, just go to the charging station, and then you have full battery. And so if your goal is to, do work, and some human gets in your way of doing your work, you need to achieve your goal somehow. So get that human out of the way. And then when you're done, recharge your battery and do it all over again.
Yeah, put them to sleep.
Yeah, we just convinced the robots just putting people to sleep.
Yeah, don't kill us.
Just taking naps. It's easy.
Yeah, a long nap. Robot buddies. They're sleep helper devices. Is all they really are.
Now, Doug, you said a while ago that you always like to pull things apart, pick things apart. When did that start? Like, do you remember back as a kid? The first thing you're like, I'm going to dismantle this thing.
I don't have any exciting good examples except maybe the computers and stuff. Like
you never had a Game Boy and like did something cool.
Let me see. I had a Game Gear that had all kinds of problems. I didn't take it apart because I think there was a period where like I had this like respect for electronics, and at some point I was like, you know what, you can just take it apart and stuff is inside it.
Yeah.
I know, especially when I got into like actual like PC stuff and started building my own computers, like that was probably where I started taking things apart and being like, this is not like impossible to understand. You just take it apart and you see where things go, and it mostly kind of works, I guess.
Yeah.
It's also just sort of like, I don't know, I guess when I grew up, I just never had this concept that like if something broke, I could just buy another one. I would rather just try to fix it or just deal with it. So it was always a matter of just trying to figure out how to fix it. I know, like trying to find fancy pens and figure out how the different springs and stuff came out and rearranging them so you could shoot the inside cartridge across the room or something.
But you weren't updating and hacking pens, were you?
Oh, no.
That'd have been cool if you like hacked the pen to update it. It writes electronically.
Oh man. Yeah, I think you're gonna have to get a better guest to have that kind of story.
Damn it. No. Should have got Billy Gates.
Did you ever play with those Legos that were like Legos Mindstorm and stuff like that, where you can kind of do programming?
No, I haven't, but I had like was it erector set stuff?
Oh, okay.
That's not quite decision making, but you could make kind of basic rolling robot type of thing, but yeah.
Yeah. I heard a cat. I think your cat's over there.
It might have been my cat.
That was not my cat. That was Gus's cat.
Yeah.
Oh.
He gets annoying and howly at night sometimes. So he might be part of this show. He's on a tangent right now.
Tangent.
Kitty cat show and cat. Speaking of kitty cats, there's cat powers in our game.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cat. I didn't mean to cat you off.
You cat me off. I was gonna ask Doug because like sometimes I think I hear kids talking about like they want to get into coding.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just a newer like lexicon, or is coding the same as programming, or is that just like what the kids are calling it nowadays?
Coding is definitely just another term for programming. I mean, the whole concept of programming could encompass so many different things, from just scripting to like writing out code. It depends on whether you're talking about like interpreted languages, compiled languages, or like systems programming. I think coding would cover pretty much any kind of situation where you're writing code.
No, but it seems like they're like the two different types of coding I think of is like boring stuff and then like cool stuff like making video games. Is that two different paths that if somebody wants to learn programming and stuff can go down?
I don't think so. I mean, there's a lot of schools out there and like teach yourself game programming in 20 days or whatever kind of thing. And I mean, maybe it's my own personal bias because I went the more traditional computer science route, but I feel like that gave me a lot deeper of an understanding of a lot of the programming concepts. Like for example, I mean that I could sit down and make this engine myself instead of having to rely on something else or only making like scripts that plug into a module instead of. So I think because one of the biggest things with actual game programming is efficiency enough to keep like good frame rates to be able to do all the crazy things you want to do. Because if you're not writing efficient code, you are wasting extra frames. You can't do as much as you wish you could do otherwise. And I think a deeper like basics computer science understanding gives you a lot more of a toolbox to understand that stuff. I mean, I think it's possible to go either way. It just depends on whether you're the kind of person who wants to understand how all that other stuff works.
Yeah. I guess either route is still programming. It's all ones and zeros in the end.
Yeah, and I think just especially with programming is like if you hate the specific thing you're doing, you can't be a programmer. You got to find something else you're gonna do, or you're gonna just jump off a building. Like I mean, I know it's probably the same thing for other professions, but especially for programming because you got to sit at a computer and you got to think really hard and you got to figure out this thing. And like, if you hate every second of that, you're gonna go crazy. I don't know.
Do you love it? Like, I know you go you daily go in and do stuff like that. And do you really enjoy it? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I
that's the
mean,
thing is like I could sit down and have the most like if I'm just like, oh, you know what? I really want to fix how my files are stored and write a little script that goes through and recursively fixes something like that's like some dumb thing, but it's really fun to me to make this thing set up this little fancy clock that runs through and does something and does what I want to do. And then I go into work and I'm working with much more complicated systems and figuring out things and like I see some weird behavior and I'm like, if I do this and this, it'll be able to tell me whether this is true or this is true. And it's like I have this like logic table that's like filtering things out until I get to the actual truth of it. And it's like I don't know, you feel like a detective and it's a lot of fun. And I think that's what drives me is that it always is fun. I get super frustrated all the time, of course. Like when I'm working at home, I'm like throwing things around the room, but like then something works. I'm just like, aha!
yeah, that's awesome.
The best feeling in the world. Which is kind of the amazing thing lately is when I've been working on the game where I give myself little tasks to do, like little like targets that I want to get done on the train. So I'll get on the train at Penn Station, I'll start programming, and it'll be like 20 minutes from home and I'll be like, okay, let me compile this chunk of stuff I just put in here. And the times that it works are more often than I would expect. And it's the great feeling, like where I make this complicated thing. I'm like, oh no, I actually need like a ring vector to do this thing over here. Let me and I fix all this stuff up and I'm like, it just works. I'm like, that's amazing. It's like I am a magician. I am the master of this computer. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds rewarding.
Yeah.
And do you feel like when you're around other programmers, you guys get each other, or you don't feel that way? I'm just curious.
You mean among other programmers?
Yeah, like I don't know if like it's like this thing where you guys have this almost camaraderie that you don't share with other people who like. I know all three of us get along really well when we hang out and stuff, but we don't really I don't understand anything when it comes to programming. You know.
I'm trying to even think about like, I don't really know if I have anyone that I consider myself like a really close friend with who does the same kind of programming I do.
Yeah.
Like I'm friends with a lot of people who do other kinds of programming, but it feels very different. Like if someone's like focusing in PHP and JavaScript and scripting, and then like I sit down, I'm like, okay, I'm C++ and all these like low level things, and like there's I guess there's a difference in language sometimes, and like I mean, there definitely is a way that your brains work sometimes that like you can definitely share different kinds of jokes differently. There's definitely a lot. Like I love programming jokes that you can share with like 3 other people and they'll find it hilarious, but no one else will understand what it's about. But
you know what this is making me think, and I apologize, but it's making me feel like you guys are sort of like the first robots in a sense, or cyborgs, because you guys understand this stuff. And that's who's going to be creating robots that are highly evolved. So wouldn't it be cool if that's kind of the quality, the way robots are? Like they feel that way about things. Like they don't, you know what I mean? They don't feel so distant away from other humans. They just feel like they have their thing and they're cool with it. And they're just so not non-threatening and calm and nice, you know.
You're really focusing on this utopia robot future.
Hey, I mean, you know, it's the future. It's like not even. It's not. It's just coming. It's just coming our way.
So much backend stuff is like, who knows what kind of algorithm someone's running, and it rules things, and we just hope it's doing a good job.
Yeah. We'll see.
Well, Elon Musk he'll run the hordes of robot lords. He'll be the captain.
I think they're going to take him out and they're going to replace him with one of their own, the way they did Mark Zuckerberg.
How do you know he hasn't already yet? I mean,
well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. They probably already. They're probably just
see his crazy Twitter rants. Like,
I don't. Give me an example. What has he got?
Well, I mean, there's just the bullshit banter, but on top of that, his crazy meltdown about the kids that were stuck in a cave, and he like just started spouting nonsense about like calling people pedophiles and stuff. It's just like,
you're talking Elon Musk or Zuckerberg?
Yeah, Elon Musk.
Oh, Musky.
He actually went to court about it.
Oh yeah, I think I remember that. Yeah. Well, he wanted to save people though, right? In the cave.
Yeah, and the people were kind of like, oh, we actually didn't need that, and he's like, oh well, whatever, pedo guy, and I'm like, it's like, what was that for?
Was the guy a convicted pedophile
No,
or something?
no, there was no evidence that the guy
Oh
had
no,
any. There
I
was no
know.
reason. It was just out of
No,
nowhere.
I know a little bit about this. I know a little bit
Uh-oh.
about this.
Oh no.
I'm sticking up, Elon.
Oh.
He said a term pedo, which is South African where he's from. It's a different term than how we use it, us Americans.
Oh.
He was.
It was all a misunderstanding.
Yep.
Hmm.
Supposedly, and he won the court battle. He won that.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go.
Nevertheless, I think
Hey,
Elon Musk needs to take a nap. I think
hey,
he
Elon,
doesn't
wink.
sleep.
We're good, right? We're still,
Yeah.
we're still cool. Man.
Well,
I
he's
just wanna make
making
sure he's cool.
he's making flamethrowers and stuff. So he's doing pretty cool stuff.
He's having fun. That's the main thing about him is he's almost like how we are. The way we make a video game, we're like, wouldn't it be cool if we did this, this, and this for us, and then we put it in there, and people love it and enjoy it. But he does that with his products, and I think that's pretty neat. And no other companies really do that. I think they're going to change to the way he's doing it because it's just so much more fun. Like his cars, he has all these Easter eggs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the what he's done for electric cars has really pushed a ton of stuff forward, which is nice. Though there's definitely a lot of bad stuff I'm hearing about business practices and how he treats his employees, depending on whatever. But that's a separate thing.
Well, we touched on it. I think might have been last episode. Do you know, Doug K, if all of his patents and stuff are open source, like all of his car stuff? Did he make it like open to the public to use?
I know that's what he said he wanted to do. I don't remember if that's what he actually did. Because, I mean, that would be going back to why he named the company Tesla in the first place, of trying to actually create knowledge and spread it.
Right.
How much he adheres to that now, I don't know. It's been a while since I've looked into it.
I mean, I think that's tough to do, though, if you think about it, because he's got a company, he's got shareholders, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like we don't want to make the Kavendek engine open source, right? Not yet, anyway.
I mean, you got to be smart with that, Doug. You can make $1 billion.
Well, you can make money off open source stuff. It's not necessarily an either or.
That's true. That's true. Wasn't Minecraft open sourced?
I'm trying to remember.
At some point. I don't know. I know some of the big stuff I thought was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Kavendek is worth $16.4 billion. Sounds like a ship. I think it should be a ship.
The USS Kavendek?
Like a space. It should be not USS. It should, a world ship. It should be the first world Earth ship.
The ESS. Wait, no.
I think there's a chance that's going to happen if you think about it. Let's look forward. I don't want to lose my train of thought here, but okay, FrightShow Fighter is a huge hit. It's made on the Kavendek. The future, you're going to be looked upon like, oh, remember he created that and all this stuff, and then all the other things we do, and then somebody's going to either name a ship the Kavendek, or it's going to be like, you know what I mean? Like how Tesla was the same thing. It's the same thing. Tesla, Kavendek, and the spaceship, a beauty of a ship.
That's I don't know if I can be so arrogant as to claim that would happen. But
well, no, you don't have to be.
Oh yeah,
I'm
this will be after I'm dead.
Yeah, and I'm the dreamer. I'm just
okay.
Just putting the dreams out there.
Yeah,
make the dreams real.
That's how everything starts. Everything. The listeners might not know this, but we probably told them. FrightShow Fighter started off as almost a joke. I was dead serious, but it was just kind of that, and then it became a reality. It's interesting to see how that could happen so easily with anything. You kind of have the idea, and then you go for it, and before you know it, you're on a podcast talking about it.
That's kind of like the Untitled Goose Game. It pretty much was. They were just like, "This would be funny," and they're like, "You know what? Let's do it."
And I haven't heard of that. What is that?
The Untitled Goose Game?
Yeah.
It's the latest thing.
I am privy. I've seen that.
It's basically, you are a horrible goose, and you run around and you make trouble. Basically, you run around and grab things and honk, and you have like a list of objectives in each little area. And once you finish all of them, the next area opens up and you move on.
It's a video game?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's sort of this like cartoony looking 3D game, and you run around making life miserable for this farmer and this little boy.
Now,
Like you can like try to honk at the kid at the right point. He falls over and loses his glasses in a puddle and stuff. And it's like, yeah.
Oh, I'll have to check
you're
it
hurting
out.
people. Now, what do you think it is about that game that made it take off like it is? A lot of things kind of go viral, and people
Yeah.
make 101 little indie games,
hmm
every year. So
Yeah.
what made that pop off the shelf?
I think people just really like the idea of being a horrible goose, I guess, resonates with people. And it was just very, very simple, stylized look to it. So it like they had a very, very focused idea of what they wanted it to do. And so it's like even though it's a game also, like you could just run around and just goof off. Like you don't necessarily have to be good at a game to have some fun with it. You can just run around and honk at things and it's funny. And I think that makes it so that like it could be you can market it to anyone. Anyone could get it. And
I mean, yeah, you're basically explaining Skyrim. I mean, that's like why people like Skyrim. You can just
oh yeah.
an open world, do whatever you want. But it's you're a goose, so it's a lot different.
Yeah. And it's really short too. It's like
Whoa,
it's
spoiler alert.
what?
Well, no.
Oh, I'm saying don't buy it expecting to spend 100 hours in it. It'll take you like 2 hours.
It sounds to me a lot like Goat Simulator, which was really popular.
Yeah, I think it's the same. Like it taps into that same feeling of like it's funny to
Yeah.
be weird animal and running around. And some games try to do it and the controls don't feel nice and you're just like, whatever. But if like the controls feel nice, you're like, oh, this is fucking great. I'm just gonna be a mean goose. There we go.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. So now I get it. It's that humor. It's
Mhm.
that, yeah.
I think a lot of
Kids love
people think like, oh, I wonder what it would be like to be this animal. I wonder what it'd be like, and that kind of answers that question for the curious, And then plus, once it starts taking off, your friends are like, have you seen this game? Have you seen this game? There's this game, and it starts building and building and building, and then you have to buy it to check it out. You watch videos on it, and it kind of just has a life of its own.
I think if it's absurd, it's got a good chance of growing. And if it works, like you said, the controls work, and you could easily jump in, and it's weird. That's what made FrightShow Fighter so popular. Is just kids kept. The Goose Game. Oh, whoops.
Subtle there.
Dun, dun, dun.
You say it so, it becomes so.
I have to. Yepper DD.
So, Doug, what's a higher probability, the Loch Ness Monster being alive or Macho Man Randy Savage being alive?
Oh, I think it depends on what you define as the Loch Ness Monster, as if it's a single entity that's been in there for hundreds of years, or if it's like.
I think that's the general accepted mythology of it, right? Or the cryptozoology of it.
I'd say I'd still put my money on the Loch Ness Monster because lakes are deep and mysterious, and it's just crazy the kind of stuff that lives under the ocean and in lakes and in things that like I don't know. We send probes out to Pluto and there's still parts of this ocean that we haven't seen, and it's like I understand why. It's just
get
crazy.
with it, guys. Come on, we're in Pluto, but we haven't gone to the bottom of the Atlantic. Give me a break.
Well, I mean, we have just not all of the bottom. There's a
lot. There's a lot of bottom.
Yeah, they haven't. They're still finding creatures down there all the time.
Yeah.
It is weird that we haven't even explored Earth completely. And they're like, hey, let's go some other places. Yeah.
Well, it's funny that like sending a probe out past the solar system is like in some ways easier than like trying to go down to the deepest points and map it out, like because the pressure is just crazy. But yeah.
How do you think they get that past that belt? I can't think what that belt's called.
The Kepler belt or something?
No, it's something weird. Or I want to say Van Halen belt, but I know that's not
Van Allen.
Van Allen. That's it. Yeah,
it's like a radiation. Well, I mean, anything that goes into space because it doesn't have humans on it. It's easier to shield the electronics. And it's kind of neat how when you make electronics for space, you have to make it like super hardened and redundant because cosmic rays and everything are actually like just constantly messing with the programming.
Right.
Just kind of an interesting thing how they're able to trust any of this stuff.
Yeah, it's not being
Yeah.
tested here for the most part.
Yeah, I mean they have to like it's just weird that like this stuff you take for granted. Like, oh, you can't just program like regular stuff. You got to have it be like redundant, fail safe, and duplicated, hardened, and blocked, and just all this stuff they have to do just to exist out in space.
Well,
Yeah.
here's what's weird. Like, I know they want to send people to Mars to live and all this stuff, and in the near future. But it's like, have you ever just done something here on Earth where like you take a car or you take a bus and you go somewhere and like you're like, we're stuck. This is terrible. Like,
I take the train every day from out of Penn Station. I know what it's like to get stuck.
But it
Yeah,
seems like
exactly.
there might be more physical impediments on Earth in a situation like that. Like if you're going into space, like you can go in a straight line for a long time before you hit anything. So
yeah.
Well, that's how they get you to go on.
Well, you could probably sleep or something. I don't know. I guess we can't do cryo sleep, right? That's only in the movies.
Not yet, no.
Wait, Disney's doing it. Well, Disney's doing that, isn't it?
You can get frozen. The problem is coming back.
Yeah, he was already dead. He was frozen after he was dead, and the technology back then was not that great. So all of his cells have been pierced by icicles. So good luck getting him back.
We already went to the moon by then. We were fine. We just haven't gone back yet.
Well, we might. There's a lot of stuff. A lot of exciting things coming up, maybe in the next, who knows?
Well, technology, they say technology doubles every 10 years. So double what we have now in 2030, and it'd be crazy stuff going on.
I thought it was faster than that, technology. That sounds kind of slow.
It could be. Maybe it's exponential. Maybe it's constantly.
Well, think about it. Let's look at a phone like 4 years ago. I feel like they're crap probably compared to now, and I feel like you could hold more than double. I don't know if that's the doubling, but...
Well, I know with electronics it was mostly Moore's law, which doesn't apply as much anymore because that was about reducing the size. And we've kind of are hitting atomic limits with that. That's why everything is multi-processor, multi-cores now.
Can you talk about that a little more? Moore's law? What is Moore's law?
It's basically... I don't remember the exact numbers. Like for a programmer, I am very bad with remembering numbers. I couldn't tell you exactly what number it is. It's like every 10 years, the size of the transistors is halved or something like that. And because it's a two-dimensional thing, it's basically quadratic, whatever. Like in terms of what you can support on a surface, and that increases what you can pack into a processor or chips and whatever.
Right, just physical size.
Yeah, but once it gets small enough, you start dealing with like actual like quantum interference or some kind of like extremely small problems. And so we're kind of hitting a limit for our electronics, so we can't keep just doubling the size. So we also have to worry about heat dissipation. That's another big thing with like phones and laptops and computers. Because you can just crank things up, but it just gets hotter and hotter.
I have a question for you. So this has nothing to do with it, but I'm going to try to kind of connect it. And I hope I didn't cut you off.
Okay.
So I've always been slightly into the idea of alchemy.
Okay.
And if you look back, I mean, these people, like I just saw this magazine at Barnes & Noble recently. It was like issue number 0 or 1 about alchemy and all this crap. But it looked like these labs they had they were huge labs. They had so much shit. Like it seems like somebody had to have like luck with alchemy. I mean, for generations they were doing it. Were they just all idiots that are like, hey, let's try it?
The thing is, they had luck with finding a lot of weird things and discovering certain chemical properties and stuff like that. But I mean, what you're talking about alchemy, like the goal of trying to like create gold from other elements. The difficulty is that to go to gold, from another element would be you'd have to either strip off or add protons and neutrons, and like the nuclear energy is necessary for that is not something any of these people could have done in their labs, not without creating like probably huge exothermic reactions that would have blown them apart or something. If they somehow managed it. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm
well,
sure...
but that answer was really good. I mean, that's not a typical guy in the street answer. That's like there's a good maybe you were an alchemist back in the day. Do you think so? Like, do you think that was like early programming in a sense?
I mean, it's if you think of it as in terms of like, I know in terms of chemistry can be a kind of programming. Like when you want to synthesize a certain chemical from other things, it's a matter of figuring out the steps and the things you do and the processes you perform on these things. And it's kind of like following a program, and you got to design it, and there's problems of efficiency and how much you actually get out of it, and what kind of side effects and whatever.
And you could have a breakthrough.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of those things where like trying to, like, I know they use computer science in terms of trying to optimize reactions to figure out if they can figure out more efficient routes to get to different things, because it's kind of like you have these different states where these chemicals are in different states, and you know that there's preconditions that can move from one state to another, and you want to optimize it and like have that fall down into like the best situation.
Well, here's the thing. I'm a producer on a new show called Modern Day Alchemists. Would you want to go on the show? Because I'm looking for people.
Are we talking about actual alchemy or just?
No, I'm just kidding around. But I feel like that should be a thing. Like, there's all these shows.
Yeah. What's the difference between alchemy and chemistry? I'm not sure I know what alchemy is.
Well, I mean, I don't know if there's a hard difference, but I know like when we talk about like old time alchemy, like that's generally like the idea of like trying to create different elements out of other elements.
Okay, because I'm picturing like cauldrons and like adding like eye of newt and like spider's limbs like to like brews and things.
Well, they kind of believed like in magic, I think. I mean, I was looking through this book and like magic's a big part of it. They're like magic and science, so. There's something there.
Yeah, I mean, like the idea of like what science isn't really like, it isn't like a subject, like a concept that people just had forever. Like there's definitely periods where it was just like, oh, because it's like a mix of spirituality and everything else, and like I don't know, it's
it's kind of fascinating, and seeing the roots of it. I mean, it's just. It's weird. I wonder what people did back then. Like even 1928, there really wasn't too much to offer, I feel like.
I mean, there was still like definitely a lot of stuff with I mean, when we think of some of the vaccines and stuff that came out.
Yeah.
1900s, late 1800s and stuff, and like there definitely were people doing things, really amazing stuff. But it's also weird that like they were doing it by like gaslight or early electric, and it's just
so cool.
And they're
labs.
Getting around in horses, even though there are cars, and the cars are super old, weird looking. It's hard to imagine like to put yourself in the shoes of like these old time people knowing everything we have now and trying to imagine that like
well, yeah, to go backwards.
Yeah.
To go backwards, but I mean, people 85 years from now are gonna be like looking back at it. Awesome. Oh my God, that was rough. Holy crap. So
I can't believe they stuck those phones to their ears.
They had them with them constantly with them, slept and everything.
If you want to go back to Elon Musk for a moment, his Neuralink bullshit.
What's that?
Like. Or it's another one of his long shot things of like trying to figure out a way to have like a direct brain interface to something, which is like, it's one of those concepts that you look at and you're like, you first think that's stupid, that can't be true, that can't be possible, but it's all just physical things. Like it's not like there's magic running around in our brains. Like you can see things. Photons hit your light, they hit the retina, it turns into electrical signals that go into your brains. Your neurons do something. That's all electrical signals through objects. Like there isn't any like hard reason why we can't interface with our brain directly. It's just a matter of, it's complicated. And so, like, I don't know, people just should start messing with it, and eventually we'll have a better idea of it. Because I mean, I don't know, it just means that you have to drill holes in your head and attach wires to your actual brain.
Yeah.
Well, there's probably some not as intrusive ways, because don't they have like those games where you wear like a headband and you can control like a basketball, like a little like toy or whatever, by just like picking up brain electricity signals? Yeah,
I just don't know how much resolution you're able to get out of that kind of thing, unless like I mean, it's just like anything where like if you're trying to like hear something through a wall, there's only so much you can pick up.
How about just the simple tube behind her neck? You just plug in, something really.
Well, yeah, I mean, if like,
I just go Matrix.
The eventual goal is like if you had some kind of like standardized interface that was attached to your brain, and that everything else could connect to or something.
So you're a fan. You're a fan of this kind of thing. You want you.
I think I think it's something that is worth looking into, even though it sounds like witchcraft. It seems like that would be a future of so many things, especially, and I think this is the biggest thing I think about is like people who have like lost limbs or have different kinds of I guess disabilities or whatever. Like, could you imagine if you could just like be like, oh yeah, well my brain, just hook this back up to this thing, and you just have like a mecha skeleton that just moves around with yourself. Like, it's like there would be no worries about like, well, what happens when I get old? What if I can't reach this? What if I can't do this? Like, that would just completely change the concept of what people can do, and it would be amazing.
Well, what about the bad side I can think of is, so you're talking about the brain as an output, but what if people hack into you and use it as an input, and now people are reversing it, and now somebody basically is in control of all, like what if whoever makes it and gets it out there's a sleeper cell, and so it's just like everybody's like, oh, you turned 18 and you're allowed to get your neural net implant. Oh, you're so excited, it's your 18th birthday. Oh, I can finally get my neural net like my dad. And then you get it, and then big corporation flips a switch, and now they're in control of 100,000 humans all over the world once.
This is making me think a lot of things. For one, there's always going to be brainwashing and controlling of people. Like there is right now. Like my kid just learned about the massacre, something massacre. I can't think of what state it was, but it was basically England massacred a bunch of innocent people because like they were going against the government, and they're teaching them, yes, that was good, they massacred them all, the kids and the mothers.
What?
Yeah, like they're learning that, and then they also have to watch CNN every morning, which is weird that it has to be that channel. Like there's other channels. So I just think there's some type of brainwashing there. So there's always going to be. The other thing I think is there's going to be like, we're people, so there's going to be like people like us who are in their own group, and then there's gonna be people who are full on like cyborgs, and we're gonna look at them differently, and they're gonna look at us differently. We go, fucking cyborgs, and they're gonna go, oh, fleshies. Look at the flesh.
Wasn't that the like plot of AI
genre? Yeah. Yeah.
that was what Will Smith was doing in AI, I think.
Wait, Will Smith was in AI?
Wasn't he in AI? And what
iRobot.
Oh, he's iRobot. Yeah. iRobot. Not AI. That was Haley Joel Osment. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. It's good. I mean, there's going to be all kinds of different groups, like partials, full on.
Well, that's the whole Harry Potter universe is based off of Muggles and humans and half-bloods and like the whole thing. So that's something that's been down in history.
And it's gonna come. Like we know that's gonna happen.
And people always think about your last. So it's like, we're going to hook this up, and you're going to connect your brain to the internet, and suddenly you're going to get hacked by everybody, and you're going to become part of a botnet. And like, it's like, you just think of like all these connected devices in your house that are probably already under control of like Russian botnets or whatever. Like,
I'm skeptical of that.
Right now. What?
I'm skeptical of that. And so as a techie person, how do you feel about the idea of being able to control things in your house with your phone?
I hate it.
Now, is that just a gut reaction, or
It's mostly a gut reaction, but it's also just the fact that these are little devices that are stuck around the house. And like, I mean, can you think of like the last time you've updated the firmware and device and how obnoxious it is? And like these things are not updating often enough. And these are things that people are making to the functionality comes first, the security comes second, like guaranteed on most of these things. And they're connected to the internet. And if something isn't already compromised yet, it's only just because someone hasn't happened to yet. And it's like when you think of like old, if you connected an XP, like a Windows XP computer to the internet, you're just like instantly sure that your computer is compromised because there's just things that scan for open ports, detecting certain things. It'll eventually be taken over, and like the fact that it becomes so much more lucrative. Like it isn't just like a little kid being like, haha, I own you now. It's like it's someone running a botnet that's making $100,000 a day mining Bitcoin by churning out stuff on your thing, or like directing DDoS attacks at people that people pay him Bitcoins to go do. Like it's like
him or her.
Yes.
Quick question.
Yeah.
The Bitcoin thing, I don't know too much about it. I sold a little bit last year, so I have to show it on my taxes, which is really bizarre. But how do you mine Bitcoin? What the hell is that?
Well, let me see. I'm trying to think.
That's a big question.
Yeah. Basically, like the high level think about it is that there's it's this connected idea of like, imagine like a connected set of people working for a solution to some tough problem, and all the different computers are just churning through those equations, brute forcing it, just being like, and eventually they'll get it. And like you're basically converting computing resources to these Bitcoins by doing these complicated brute force lookups, which leads you to be able to verify transaction chains. I mean, I'm not going to be able to explain it.
Kitty terms, but yes.
I think just it's easier to think of it as like people just running computers to the max to generate this resource. That resource becomes the Bitcoin, like in a way, like.
But you can also buy and sell it.
Without
reading it yourself.
Yeah, you buy and sell it, but like as you do these transactions, you need that web of people with the Bitcoin miners to verify the transaction, and it like solves the thing, and it's the way that it makes a reproducible, like can't mess with the steps of the transaction. Like anyone can look at it and see what it was. But
do you think Bitcoin's going to take over? Do you think it's going to like or something like it?
I think it's an interesting concept, but it just feels so inefficient. It's just so many people, so all over the place, are just running like so many GPUs to death just to generate this idea of a currency. And I hate the idea that it's just like we made up something and we somehow attributed value to it, and it's just like feels like bullshit. I don't think it's, I don't know. I think the problem is that people are treating it as a speculative currency, being like, oh, it's going to go up, so I'm going to invest. And like, can it just be a currency? Like, imagine if like the dollar in your pocket changed, like doubled or halved in value each time you went to go buy something. You can't think of that as like a fungible asset. You're not buying things with that. So it just makes it weird. I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's also... It's one of thousands of cryptocurrencies. Yeah, it's just the one that made it to the top.
Yeah. Yeah, there's Dogecoin and all kinds of other nonsense out there.
It's like there's like a war of who's going to be the kings of those fake currencies or whatever. And
I was looking into it at one point, and I signed up for some cryptocurrency trading site, and then I got an email one day, and it said somebody has I think it's called like dropped or something. Somebody dropped like a couple cryptocurrency called KTETH, like KTHTH, and I was like, somebody's just giving me free money, and I looked up, and it's like 0.006 cents a share now. So I'm like rolling in the pennies, and it goes down a little bit every day. So it's like somebody was trying to like start some cryptocurrency and wanted to give out a bunch to a couple people, and man, I bought low, and I'm gonna be selling high soon. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's interesting, and it makes me like I get ideas from that kind of stuff of, how I would want to do it, that kind of thing. But like to make it different, to make it better, I feel like there's not enough artists who are working on these kind of projects, or just people who have different kinds of mindsets than what's out there. I don't know. It just seems a lot similar. Let's copy. Oh, that kind of thing.
There's so much duplication like that. Yeah.
You see, there was a lot of business. I just had my speaking of copy, I just had some company today that has a ton of followers just steal one of my images and slap it on jackets.
Yeah.
And it's like copy. So
yeah, and see, that's specifically what copyright should be about. It should be easy for you to enforce that, but it's like what do you do? It's like it's hard.
Well, so the benefit of today is that you could have, like, I found out about this from a fan, like a follower,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the power is of copyright, in a sense, where you could be an individual, and if a company's a dick, everyone could call them out, and that company's not going to want to look bad, so they get scared, So, so I'm threatening with that. That's kind of my threat.
The power of the people.
Yeah, which is pretty good. We have that still. I think we might have it stronger than ever, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, but it comes down to not them wanting to lose face, but wanting they're worried they might lose money in the end. So if a lot of people hate them, they won't make as much money, so they'll take it down. Because they obviously didn't give a crap about it when they stole it. They were looking to make as much money as possible, but then they realized, like, we might lose some people who want to buy our stuff, so we better take it down. It's not because they got goodness in their heart.
Well, I thought about that though, and I thought maybe they don't know. Like, maybe they don't know what's happening. Like, maybe they have a design team, and the design team just grabs things.
Yeah, is this like a crowdsourced kind of thing where like users submit their own stuff to it, or is
no, it's they have like 350,000 followers.
It's like
and they have a website, and I think they're either like Japanese or Chinese. I don't know, and I'm sorry, I don't know. But it's something that was like not American. It was definitely not American, and it was. But they were selling to Americans, but all the models looked like they looked more Asian. And so I'm guessing that's what it was. There was some Asian text and stuff like that, but I don't know the difference. So I feel stupid that I don't.
But yeah, U.S. copyright laws are different than international copyright laws. So then you get into all these gray areas.
But as an artist, I know you have a right. Like when you make something, you're kind of protected, and you should be. But like otherwise, we could just take people's from France's art and sell it all the time. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean that's what a lot of people do online is you steal stuff from other countries because it's so much more of a process. But if you have fan following, all your fans can like descend on it. It doesn't matter what country they're in; it's going to make them look bad at least. So at least you have that.
Yeah, they took down the post, and then they got back to me, but I'm like, I'm only going to wait till tomorrow till I blast this out and like make you guys look bad because I have to. I don't have a choice. I'm always like, at least give me a bunch of it. It's kind of cool looking. I don't have it. Like, let's work together. I always try to work together with them, even though you kind of don't want to, but
Yeah, I mean that would be the best way to, if they're just like, oh yeah, well actually we'll just give you a cut, and then you're getting free money for something that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten anything at all from. That'd be great.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. Even though you really can't trust them at that point.
Oh yeah, It's kind of like some of the bundles that we signed up for.
Yeah. Well, so are we getting back into bundles? You think we'll do some more of those?
I think they were good. I just want to like maybe recontact the ones that we've actually used.
I think one owes us money, but they just never paid us.
That's what I mean. It's like some of them are better than others. The ones that paid us, we can go back to them.
Yeah,
and it's tricky because what do you have? Oh, an email address?
Yeah. Oh, and listeners, bundles are like you put your game in with a whole bunch of other games, and you make a little bit of money rather than a full sale, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they sell a ton of them usually.
Yeah, and it's awesome to be able to get our game out to more people. I think the more people that see it, the bigger of a following it'll have. Because I think people, when they play it, they fall in love with it.
Yeah, because it's not like we're gonna be retiring off of like a couple people going on Steam and buying it there. It's like the main thing is like we gotta get it out there, which is the other part of this iOS stuff that we're working on, because that'll
That's
open a whole
right.
new platform.
I think
the
when
touch version.
iOS I think that's going to be really awesome, and it gives it in everybody's hands almost instantly. In a sense, everybody has these phones, and then we talked about Android, if that's even relevant today. I don't know. Do you have an Android, Doug?
Yeah.
Okay, so you and
so,
Jeff do.
So do I. Yeah, I know a lot of people with Androids.
Okay, as an Apple user, I feel like you almost feel like you get so you're so out of that world you don't even know if it's still there. It's weird.
I've seen Google phones pick up a little bit too. I know some people that have Google phones.
Yeah, I wonder. Do you think that's going to be a big change for the programming from like iOS to Android?
Oh, what to make an Android? Well, I mean, the last time I was looking into whether or not it made sense to make an Android version, it sounded like it would be very complicated because you have to support so many different kinds and.
Oh, right.
But it's been a while, and it's something I would like to look into again once the iOS version's out.
Yeah, either
because,
that or Switch. I think Switch, Xbox.
Oh yes,
PlayStation 4.
Switch would be. I think if we're talking about what would be easier to go to, the Switch would be much easier than going to Android, because Switch I can still use like pretty much everything I already have. Like it would not be a huge port.
Nice.
It wouldn't be as much work as iOS and Mac has been. Well, I mean, Mac was easy. iOS has been the complicated part. That goes back to making my own engine. If it was using Unity or Unreal or something, you just select a different drop down and say build for this or that, and like it's like fantastic.
Oh, really? It'd be that easy.
But like, yeah, but for this, it's like, okay, I got to make sure all the different touch events are being handled in a way that makes sense, hook up the gestures, and figure out how all that's going to route through my input systems. And yeah, but I mean, it's actually made it's nice because I was able to make a lot of the input stuff more generalized. So like a lot of the stuff like touch or mouse is all going through the same code bases and stuff, and it's just whether or not it's different fingers, multiple fingers, a gesture, it all is just like.
Well, yeah, we're doing stuff I've seen Unreal Engine fighting games out there, and I know they can't do what this game's going to be able to do. I've played them. They kind of sucked. I mean, unless it's changed recently, but they were really like not much going on here. Just kind of punch, kick. You can't jump over the dude.
Are you talking about mobile versions?
Yeah, mobile.
Oh, yeah. That's I think what I really want to focus on. Like, is trying to make this feel as much like the PC version, or even better, like depending on how the input. Like, some of these inputs feel nice. So I mean, it's just we gotta.
Did you try that thing we talked about?
You're talking about pinches and stuff. I haven't been able to, but it's something that would be fairly easy to add in there.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like that'd be a great way to grab a character.
Yeah.
Just pinch them.
Yeah, right. It might be it'd probably feel neat, like doing that. Like you feel like you really did it.
Yeah. Because I definitely want to make it feel like it's just a bunch of simple gestures. Like you don't have to memorize anything. It's like what feels natural to do.
Yeah, that's the trick to it. If it feels really like just jump in, what would you do? I feel like it's almost an extension of you. I think that could be really beautiful.
Yeah.
People listening are gonna know by the time, sometime. Yeah.
Yeah. Once it's more together, I can record a better video. Maybe we could post it everywhere or something. But yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to get a vertical one if you can too. A lot of things are shooting in vertical now. I don't know if you're aware of that.
What? Yeah. There's no don't switch to vertical instantly. What is this guy talking about?
I'm talking about a video for vertical.
So
a vertical video of a landscape phone?
Well, no, I'm talking about a gameplay. Like imagine just two you're focused on one character, you're following him, he's fighting, you see the two characters. I don't know if that's difficult or not, but I know that'd be the best thing to share. Would be a vertical thing in today's world. I know that
Are you
kind of
saying
sucks.
the game is on vertical orientation, or that the video is vertical?
Just the video. Just
Okay,
the
Just the
video.
video.
Because I'm just thinking of like the input scheme of having it vertical. It's like you don't have a lot of floor real estate to move your character around.
Oh
You're
no.
You're giving a pretty
Yeah.
drastic change right here in the podcast. I wasn't expecting.
No.
All right.
I'm only talking like for
Yeah.
video for
Okay,
sharing
yeah,
because I think that would be cool. I mean, I know a lot of TV shows are starting to shoot vertical for like not a lot, but some are. I know a guy he's a DP and he shot a TV show vertically just for like Snapchat or something.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, if your end result is going to be on a phone, it makes sense. But most nowadays, everybody has TVs and monitors that are already landscape, so it wouldn't make sense for those devices.
That's what I would say, is that most people, I like to think that, but I think most people nowadays are doing all this on their phone. Like,
Yeah. There's
some people I know that they just don't have a computer, and I'm like, what is that? What is that like? You just do all your stuff on a phone? I don't know, but that's what a lot of people are like. I don't know.
Yeah, but you can turn it sideways too.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
But what I'm talking about is like viewers on Instagram, viewers on TikTok.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Instagram and stuff is always very, very vertical.
Yeah. They're obsessed with it.
Get
and I know things. Yeah, it's getting vertical. I had to do that. I don't know.
I like it.
Oh yeah. So that's the good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we're here for like an hour, chatting it up. Well, anything else you want to talk about or plug?
I don't know. I don't think we want to dive into politics, do we? No.
Whoa.
We haven't yet. I feel like politics for us are talking about Elon Musk and things.
Yeah.
And robots.
Even that, I'm like, oh no, people that like Elon Musk are gonna hate us.
I'm an Elon. No, because I'm an Elon Musk fan. We're not all shit on him. I'm pro Elon Musk. You guys could be against him. That's a good package. It's a good candidate. All of them. See that?
Neutral. Yeah,
we got an anti, a neutral, and a pro. And we can all get along. That's the important thing.
That's right.
No hating.
Yeah. Well, that's a great positive note to end it on. You know, that we all just get along and love one another.
Yeah, share opinions, get along. We're three guys, three frighten it up, a programmer, an animator, and a weirdo.
That's right. And so I think, you just need to look at life not as ones and zeros, but as a gray ether of love.
And a gray soup of mediocrity.
That's right.
Yes, a McRainbow full of every color. That
neither hot nor cold.
Yeah. So Doug K, it was great talking to you and having you on the podcast. I think you're the most technical or logistical or analytical guest that we've had so far. So it's great getting your perspective on things. I think we learned a lot. From
alchemy to science to it all. I appreciate this conversation.
All right, thanks, Doug.
All right.